Well, good evening, folks. Hope you're well. I watched with interest this morning. It's quite rare that I watch it, to be honest. Um, Nigel Farage and his gang from the Brexit Party uh, having a rally in Lincolnshire, one of my favourite parts of the country in the UK, Lincoln. I like Lincoln because it's flat, quite frankly. Great for bicycles. It's not an effort. There's no hills, man. It's all like Holland. It's dead straight. And a lot of my formative years were spent in Lincoln, so I like the people. It's a very farming area, very much farming. And well, I must confess, um, looking at the lineup uh, of the people that he's got supporting him in the Brexit Party, it's ever likely their streets ahead of the other idiots. Um, I am a Brexiteer by nature. I believe in a country having borders, language, and culture. I also believe that politicians should be our servants and not our masters. And we seem to have lost our way in that a little bit, haven't we? Historically, when politicians were voted in to do as they're told and carry out the people's wishes. But at some stage in history, that flipped, whereas the people did as they were told and the politicians, civil servants, became dictators. And I think we have to turn that tide, quite frankly. And this is what the Brexit Party seems to represent to me. I think that, well, this is the controversial bit. And you might call me old-fashioned, but I don't mind, honestly, I don't. But equally, I think that the fruits of the labour that's going to happen in the next 5 years in this country will be pivotal on the success or failure of Great Britain. And what we do in the next 5 years is going to be a landmark. It'll be a tipping point. This is where we're going to decide our future in the next 5 years. One thing is of paramount importance, and that is that we disassociate ourselves from the rest of Europe. And I mean that. I see no future for Paris, well, France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, you name it. That lot, including, Italy's a lost cause, it's gone down the toilet. These were once great nations. And any country that has been involved with the economic community has floundered. They have been raped hook, line and sinker by this sponge called the EU, European Union. And sadly, it is a German dictate. We are seeing the rise, quite frankly, of not the Fourth Reich, even. We are seeing the rise of the Fifth Reich. And generally, people are too blind to see this. It is the Germans and the German banks that are running the show. Now, I know the German banks, particularly the Deutsche Bank, German, they are huge. They have more money than you could shake a stick at, truly. They are one of the richest banks, the Deutsche Bank. Okay? But we know that Deutsche Bank is part of the Lombard banking cartel. The Lombard Bank run the world. And one of the big contributors to that, of course, is the Deutsche Bank. They are calling the shots. They are seriously cash rich. It's a little bit like saying that when you owe the bank £1,000, you worry. Okay, but when you owe the bank £1 billion, they worry. And the same argument, the same theory exists whenever we have countries indebted to the banks. There's many countries that are worried because there's many countries are asset rich and cash poor. And the problem is the banks are willingly lend money knowing that those countries simply cannot afford the repayments. But it's okay if you default on your repayments, which they hope you do. We'll just take your goodies. We'll just have your assets. And they asset strip country after country after country. Okay? But it's rather strange. You can give a man a gun and he'll hold up a bank. But you can give a man a bank and he'll hold up the world. And that's precisely what's happened with the Lombard banking cartel, who are absolutely the ones behind all the world events in finance. The Lombard banking cartel. Yes, there we are. But why I started to talk about the European community, as they say, was I think, am I the only one that sees it coming? I don't think so. I'm not that arrogant. There are cleverer people than me. But surely there's a big debacle even during this Nigel Farage's bash at Lincoln on stage, talking about the demand, yes, the almost insistence of Macron in charge of France, yes, pushing like crazy with Juncker, Jean-Claude Juncker, the importance of financing and insisting no less, that the European community will have a European army. And in my mind, that rings huge, huge, huge alarm bells. Because what we have to understand, folks, is that these people, they don't look ahead 5 years or 10 years, they look ahead 25 to 50 years. Okay? In the planning. They know precisely the direction the European Union is going to go. It's going to be a super state. It is going to be Nazi, National Socialist. And all these countries that are in the economic community, European community, will be socialized. They will become under a dictate. And if you think that communism, and that's what it is bad in Russia, you wait till it exists in its full glory, with its own army that will police the people. Police the people. Okay? It will be one of the most powerful structures in our world, on our world. And I said in a video a couple of years back that history repeats itself. Instead of it's Hitler up to his little tricks, after the Second World War, he became a fanatic and he was funded, wasn't he? Funded. Hitler became out of nowhere, didn't he? He came out of nowhere and he got all this money. Where did he get the money from to build the Nazi party? Well, the Bank of England, quite frankly. Rothschilds funded Hitler. The Bank of England. And they funded both sides, did the Bank of England. You talk about hedge your bets. Oh yes, it didn't matter to the Bank of England whether Britain won the war or not, because they were going to get paid either way. You see? They never do anything, these people, without knowing the outcome first. They don't gamble. That's the difference. And we still have the Bank of England financing our enemies. We truly do. Well, I suggested, quite rightly I think in my mind, that the agenda behind the European Union is to build Germany back up to such an extent, using France and the other countries, as allies, and convincing them all and dictating them to them all that the European army, well, Britain doesn't want to play any part in the formation of a European army, because I said and I predicted, I'm sure I'm not alone, that history repeats itself, and Britain and America will be out in the cold. And we are close allies with America, and they are with us. And I think that Britain will be at war once again, but standing alone this time against, if this European army does succeed, I think there will be a monumental war between Britain and the rest of Europe. And Holland, Germany, France, Belgium, well, forget Belgium, it's a bunch of farmers, and other countries will be forced under the treaty, under the arrangement, to turn their guns towards Great Britain. And Great Britain will be very, very vulnerable. We will be ripe for a takeover, because our current politicians don't want to build up our armed forces. In fact, it's very difficult to get people recruited for the armed forces now. People are leaving the Army, Navy and Air Force so fast. And it's being slowly degraded systematically. There are more pilots than there are aeroplanes. There truly are. There's more admirals in the Navy than there are ships. Believe it or not, there are admirals in charge of rowing boats. There truly are in the Navy, because there's not enough ships for them, or boats, U-boats, to play with. So admirals of the fleet, of what? Rowing boats? What are you going to do with all these admirals? What are you going to do with all these pilots? Most pilots, well, the Air Force is overmanned with pilots. They're not taking any more on, they're not training anymore particularly. And those that are trained are waiting for an aeroplane to become available so they can learn to fly and fly around the plane that they join the Air Force to fly. I know this at first hand. I know a couple of lads that are fully qualified and they're waiting for a flight in a Typhoon because that's their next plane, but they're having to wait. There's not enough aeroplanes. What a joke. Well, at what stage? This is what the attraction is for the Brexit Party. I'm fully supportive of the Brexit Party. I think it's the only way. Why don't people, you see and have the ability to see what can happen in the next 20 years? If we sit on idly by and we sit on our hands and we don't Brexit, and we're forced to be sucked in to this European army, I don't think Great Britain needs to be a part of Europe. And this is why every effort is being made by our politicians who see the future of their financial investments under threat. All of our politicians have external jobs as businessmen. Of course they do. They're business consultants. Where do you think they are 4 days a week out of 5? They only turn up once a week when Prime Minister's question time's going on. Bloody politicians, they should be full-time, Monday to Friday, or maybe Monday to Saturday. But they don't, do they? Because they have external vested interests. Not to mention, the civil servants aren't the civil servants. They just do what the politicians tell them to do. So it's a mess. The whole thing is a mess. We haven't had a decent Prime Minister for ages in this country. Not one. Look at the morons we've had. Neil Kinnock, for Christ's sake. Well, I'm not sure if he was an absolute Prime Minister or not. Tony Blair, warmonger, liar, thief, hypocrite. Yeah, okay, what's the other ones? John Major, very interesting, John Major, yes. Another dick. This idiot. Oh, Cameron and his sidekick Osborne, both Etonian Billingdon boys who have to fuck pigs to get into the Etonian club. What nonsense, isn't it? What, you tell me, the last decent Prime Minister we had the moron called Heath, the paedophilic bastard that he was, with his Morning Cloud going around murdering children, well known to the police, and they did nothing. He had 2 boats called the Morning Cloud. I think it may have been 3, so the police didn't quite know which one to watch, but they knew. They were counting the kids off and counting the kids on, and there was always less kids got off than got on. Where were the kids? Glug, glug, glug. Yeah. One of the greatest opportunities this country ever missed was when Enoch Powell failed to become elected as a Prime Minister. He would have made a magnificent Prime Minister. The closest thing we had to somebody who really knew their stuff and was nobody's fool, it pains me to say, was Margaret Thatcher. After Margaret Thatcher, the succession of Prime Ministers in this country have been a screaming joke of selling the UK down the river. But Thatcherism did a lot of damage to us as well, but she was overruled and dictated to by, yes, you've guessed it, the Eurocrats. And she was voted off eventually and kicked out on the sidelines, wasn't she? Harold Wilson was equally derelict in his duty. What a dick. So, where are the politicians now? Where are the true statesmen, the patriots? It's very sad, isn't it? This such proud nation. The royal family are very, very quiet lately. Oh, they've announced the birth of the new royal baby. 50% of it could have been black, or you had a 50% chance, of being a black child or a white child. Did you know that? From a genetic point of view. What would have happened had that baby been born black? Think about it. Well, fills me with dread. But the royal family are now a shadow of their former selves. They just still cost us a fortune. But she has such influence in Great Britain, doesn't she? The Queen. The biggest landowner, seconded only by Prince Charles. Well, and they're all now quite openly discussing how proud they are to be ancestors of Germany. Part of the German Reich, of course. Saxon Coburg ghosts, you see, they've got to return home because shit finds its own level. Eventually, Britain might wake up and smell the coffee. Or smell the Frankfurters, the sausages, yeah, the currywursts. Well, but on a more serious point, why can't people see that the whole agenda, the turning of the tide is happening, and now the Krauts are at it again, banging that war drum wanting to amass your with us or against us attitude towards Great Britain, banging their war drum, wanting to build a European super army with drones, missiles, you name it. It's coming. And all those missiles and drones and satellites and the spying will be aimed at surveilling Great Britain. Well, who will probably, if they've got their head screwed on, say, up yours, you've tried it twice, we've smashed you in the face twice, try it again. It's time that Britain became great again. Great Britain, not just Britain, Great Britain. Because Great Britain has some amazing allies that want nothing to do with Europe. Oh, for sure. Don't forget the Second World War just didn't include armies from Europe, did it? Israel wants nothing to do with Europe. America wants nothing to do with Europe. Both of those countries could wipe out Germany, France, Italy, Spain in a heartbeat. So we ain't such a pushover on this little island. But realise that this is what is coming our way fast. And that it would be wise if people in the next 20 years started to realise that the Germans are at it again. The warmongering psychopaths that they truly are as a nation think it's going to be third time lucky that they will conquer Great Britain. Well, in the words of Winston Churchill, when they call us chicken, when Winston Churchill said, some chicken, some neck. Again, we will fight them on the beaches, but not with a stranded force of sailors anymore. It'll be tactical. It'll be over very quickly. Okay. And it'll be decisive. Pick your poison, pick your side. You're either with them or you're against them. You're either a Brexiteer, for the reasons I've just mentioned, or not. If you want to stay in Europe, I suggest you pack your bags and disappear over what Europe is to become, and that is a fascist dictatorship run by bureaucrats in Brussels, because that's the future we're looking for. It truly is the Hunger Games. Catch you tomorrow, folks. Have a think. Don't worry too much. We've smashed them twice. We'll do it again. Bring it on, Mr. Juncker. Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Juncker?